chosen one. Have you ever woken up at 3 a.m. and felt like your soul was older than your body? Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered when the fire in your eyes turned to ash? Have you ever whispered to God in the dark, "Did you forget I'm still here?" Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. 42 hours ago, something shifted in the heavens. While you were sleeping, while you were scrolling, while you were just trying to make it through another day, heaven started a countdown clock with your name carved into it. Not a death clock, a rebirth clock. You have exactly 42 hours to rely on something so ancient, so buried in scripture, so hidden from this generation, that when you activate it, your body will remember what your spirit never forgot. I'm not talking about some anti-aging cream from a television commercial. I'm not selling you vitamins or supplements or false hope wrapped in a bottle. I'm talking about a biblical principle so powerful that it reversed time for Hezekiah, renewed strength for Moses at 120 years old, and caused Caleb to claim mountains at 85 like he was 25. Your bones are tired. I know. You've carried weight that would have crushed weaker souls. Your body has logged decades of disappointments, betrayals, losses that left scars doctors can't see on x-rays. Time has been stealing from you, your energy, your hope, your belief that tomorrow could be different from yesterday. But what if I told you that for the next 42 hours, God Himself is offering to reverse the spiritual aging that's been draining your life force? Why 42 hours? Why you? Why now? Hold those questions, because if I answer them too soon, you'll miss the mystery unfolding in your spirit right this second. Before we go deeper, and we're going deep into mysteries that will shatter everything you thought you knew about aging and renewal, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let that seed of faith be planted. Right now, I need you to do something. If your spirit recognizes this moment, if something ancient inside you just woke up, type Amen in the comments. Not for me, for heaven. Let the angels see you're awake. Let the throne room know you're listening. Because, chosen one, time is not your enemy anymore. For 42 hours, it's your weapon. When was the last time someone looked you in the eyes and asked how you were really doing? When was the last time your phone rang with a voice that actually wanted to hear your story, not just check a box? When was the last time you felt like your existence mattered to someone other than God? Let me tell you what's happening to you, chosen one. And I need you to hear this with your spirit, not just your ears. You don't feel 70 because you've lived 70 years. You feel ancient because you've been carrying 70 years of other people's weight on top of your own. Your daughter's divorce, your son's addiction, your grandchildren's confusion in a world that's lost its mind, your spouse's slow fade into silence or the grave. Every burden they were supposed to carry somehow ended up on your shoulders, and nobody thanked you for it. You wake up tired, not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, the kind that lives in your bones, the kind that makes you wonder if you'll ever feel light again. Your friends, most of them are gone now, moved away, passed away, drifted into their own survival. The ones still here don't call like they used to. Sunday dinners became once a month. Once a month became holidays. Holidays became a text message with a heart emoji. You're surrounded by people and drowning in loneliness. Your children grew up and grew distant. You raised them, sacrificed your dreams so they could chase theirs, and now they're too busy building lives that don't have room for the person who built them. You see their faces on Facebook more than you see them at your table. You know their vacations better than you know their struggles. And when you call, you can hear it in their voice. They're already thinking about the next thing they need to do. You've become an interruption in lives you gave everything to create. After 60, the world started treating you like you're invisible. Like your opinion doesn't matter anymore. like your experience is outdated, like you're just waiting around to die instead of still burning to live. They put you in a category: senior citizen, fixed income, golden years. Pretty words for being put on a shelf. But here's what breaks my heart most: you stopped dreaming. Remember that business you wanted to start? That mission trip you planned to take? That book you were going to write? That skill you wanted to master? You shelved every one of them because life got heavy. Bills got real. Responsibilities got thick. And somewhere along the way, you traded your dreams for duties and convinced yourself that was noble. But God never asked you to bury your purpose, to carry everyone else's problems. Moses didn't start his calling until he was 80 years old. 80. The age when this world says you should be winding down. God said Moses was finally ready to wind up. For 40 years, he thought he was finished, exiled, forgotten, in a desert tending sheep. But Exodus 7:7 tells us, Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. The greatest deliverance in human history was led by men. This world would have retired. Abraham's body was as good as dead at 100 years old. Romans 4:19 says he faced the fact that his body was as good as dead. But his promise was young. His purpose was just being born. Sarah's womb was closed for 90 years. But Genesis 21:2 declares, Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. Your body might be aging, but your assignment is awakening. You feel older than your years because you've been living under a lie. The lie that says your worth is measured by your productivity, that your value decreases with your age, that your purpose expires when your body slows down. But you're not a machine that depreciates. You're a lighthouse that's been standing through storms for decades. Yes, your light has dimmed. I see it. God sees it. But dimmed doesn't mean dead. Here's what I need you to understand, and this is the first layer of the 42-hour mystery that's about to transform everything. You feel older because you've been carrying weight that belongs to God, not you. Every worry about your children, that's His. Every fear about your future, that's His. Every regret about your past, that's His. Every burden about your health, your money, your purpose, all of it belongs to the one who said in Matthew 11:28, Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. You've been trying to be God instead of trusting God, and it's aged you spiritually faster than time ever could physically. For 70, 80, 90 years, you've been Atlas holding up a world you were never meant to carry. Your shoulders are collapsing. Your spirit is exhausted. Your hope is running on fumes. But what if I told you that in the next 42 hours, God wants to perform a divine exchange? Your burden for His rest, your weariness for His renewal, your spiritual old age for the vigor of purpose reborn. This isn't about turning back the clock on your wrinkles. This is about rewinding the fatigue in your soul. You're about to discover why you felt this weight for so long. You're about to learn what happens when you finally, after all these years, let go and rely completely on what God is offering you in this sacred 42-hour window. But first, chosen one, I need you to do something. If this message is locating your soul right now, if these words are reading your life like a book you thought nobody could see, tap that like button, not as support, as surrender. Let heaven see your yes. Let the throne room know you're ready to stop carrying what was never yours to hold. Because what I'm about to reveal next will explain exactly what happens inside your body, your mind, your spirit when you activate the biblical principle that's been hidden in plain sight for 2,000 years. The lighthouse is about to remember it was built to shine. You want to know what heaven is asking of you right now? You want to know what this 42-hour window actually means for your life? Listen closely, chosen one. Because what I'm about to tell you will either set you free or leave you exactly where you've been for the last 20 years. For the next 42 hours, starting this very moment, God is requiring one thing from you, not your money, not your perfection, not your understanding. He's requiring your complete reliance on His presence alone. 42 hours of trusting His voice over your fear. 42 hours of leaning on His strength instead of your fading memories. 42 hours of believing His promise over what your birth certificate says about you. This isn't a suggestion. This is a divine mandate with an expiration date. Let me tell you why this matters so urgently. You've been operating on your own strength for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to be carried. You've been white-knuckling your way through life, gripping control with tired hands, making decisions from a place of exhaustion instead of revelation. And every year, every month, every day you do this, something inside you ages that has nothing to do with your body. Your spirit has been growing old, dear one. Not your flesh, your spirit. The Bible tells us in Isaiah 40-31, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." Did you catch that word? Renew. Not maintain, not manage. Renew. That means getting back something you lost. But here's what most people miss about that verse. The renewal doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from waiting on Him, from relying on Him, from transferring the weight you've been carrying onto shoulders that were built to bear the burden of the entire universe. God is saying to you right now, put it down. For 42 hours, stop trying to figure it out. Stop rehearsing the worst-case scenarios. Stop trusting your own tired wisdom and lean completely into mine. Why 42 hours specifically? Because in Scripture, 42 is the number of testing, preparation, and transition. The Israelites had 42 camps in the wilderness before entering the Promised Land. 42 generations from Abraham to Christ. This number appears when God is moving someone from one season into another. You are standing at a spiritual threshold right now, and heaven is giving you 42 hours to make the transition from self-reliance to God-reliance, from aging in your spirit to renewing in His presence. But I need you to understand something that's going to shake you. This isn't passive. This isn't you sitting back and waiting for feelings to wash over you. This is active reliance. This is you making a conscious choice every single hour for the next 42 hours to say, "Lord, I choose your voice. I choose your strength. I choose your promise." When fear whispers that your body is breaking down, you say, "I rely on God." When loneliness tells you your best years are gone, you declare, "I rely on God." When the doctor's report tries to write your future, you stand firm and say, "I rely on God alone." 42 hours of trust, 42 hours of surrender, 42 hours of saying, "Lord, I'm in your hands." This is not religion, beloved. This is warfare. Because the enemy of your soul has spent decades convincing you that you're running out of time, that your strength is fading, that your purpose expired when you hit retirement age. He's been whispering that you're too old, too tired, too broken to matter anymore. But God is about to prove him a liar. Right now, while you're listening to my voice, angels are moving pieces behind the scenes of your life. Doors you thought were welded shut are being pried open. Relationships you thought were dead are being resurrected. Strength you thought was gone forever is being restored at the cellular level of your spirit. The next 42 hours are not ordinary time. Heaven is working on your timeline with urgency you cannot see. Psalm 103:5 declares that God satisfies your mouth with good things, so that your youth is renewed like the eagles. Your youth, not your appearance, not your face, your youth, that fire, that passion, that clarity, that strength of spirit you had before life beat it out of you. These 42 hours will reverse the aging of your spirit. What life stole, God is about to restore. The hope that died, He's breathing on it. The dreams you buried, He's excavating them. The strength that evaporated, He's replenishing it. But you have to make the choice to rely on Him completely, not 80% reliance while you keep 20% in reserve for your own backup plan. Not partial trust with one foot still planted in self-sufficiency. Complete, radical, all-in reliance on the God who spoke galaxies into existence and knows every gray hair on your head. Here's what I need you to do right now. I need you to speak it out loud, not in your head. Out loud. Say these 4 words where your ears can hear them, where the atmosphere around you can feel them, where heaven can record them. I rely on God. Type it in the comments. Declare it over your life. This is your prophetic agreement with what heaven is doing in this 42-hour window. This is you telling fear it has no authority. This is you announcing to every force that's been draining your life that its reign is over. I rely on God. Say it again. Mean it deeper this time. Because what happens in the next 42 hours will determine whether you spend your remaining years fading or flourishing. And I'm about to show you exactly what God does when you finally let go of everything you've been clutching. You know what nobody tells you about getting older? It's not the gray hair or the wrinkles that hurt the most. It's waking up at 2:47 a.m. with your heart pounding for no reason. It's that crushing weight on your chest when you can't remember if you took your medication. It's the sound of silence in a house that used to be full of voices. Listen to me, chosen one. What you've been experiencing isn't normal aging. What's been happening to you in these last few years, the sudden health scares, the financial pressure that came out of nowhere, the people who walked away when you needed them most, that wasn't coincidence. That was warfare. The enemy saw something. He looked into the scroll of heaven and saw that God was about to reverse your timeline. He saw that divine age reversal was coming for you, and he panicked. So he did what he always does. When heaven is about to move, he attacked first. Think about it. When did the doctor visits multiply? When did your body start breaking down faster than it should? When did the loneliness become so thick you could taste it? It wasn't random. It was strategic. The devil doesn't waste ammunition on people God has forgotten. He reserves his most vicious attacks for those carrying heaven's greatest promises. Job 1:6-12 shows us this pattern. God bragged about Job to Satan. Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. And what happened next? Everything Job owned was stripped away in a single day. His children, his wealth, his health. Satan knew Job carried something precious, so he tried to destroy it before it could fully manifest. You've been living Job's story, haven't you? Just when you thought life was settling down, another storm hit. Just when you started to breathe again, another diagnosis came. Just when you found a moment of peace, another relationship shattered. But here's what the enemy didn't count on. Here's what hell miscalculated. Every attack was actually confirming your assignment. Every storm was proving you carry something worth fighting for. You think you've been aging under biological time? No. You've been aging under spiritual weight. There's a difference, beloved. Biological aging is natural wrinkles, gray hair, slower steps. But spiritual aging, that's when your soul gets crushed under burdens that were never meant for your shoulders. Your back didn't bend because of arthritis alone. It bent because you've been carrying your children's mistakes, your spouse's death, your family's shame, generational curses that should have been broken decades ago. You've been Atlas holding up a world that God never asked you to carry. Isaiah 46:4 says, "Even to your old age and gray hairs, I am he who will sustain you. I have made you, and I will carry you. I will sustain you, and I will rescue you." Did you catch that? God said, He will carry you, not the other way around. But the enemy convinced you that you had to carry everything yourself. He whispered that you were responsible for outcomes you couldn't control. He made you believe that if you just tried harder, sacrificed more, carried heavier loads, then maybe, just maybe, things would work out. That's why you're exhausted. That's why you feel decades older than your birth certificate says. You've been carrying weight in the spirit realm that's been crushing you in the physical realm. Let me tell you something that's going to shake you. The reason the attacks intensified recently, the reason the last 3 years have felt like 30, is because your reversal window was opening. Heaven scheduled your breakthrough, and hell tried to destroy you before you could step into it. The enemy attacked hardest because your timeline was about to crack wide open. Think about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Luke 22:44 tells us, "And being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground." The darkest hour came right before the greatest victory in human history. The agony peaked right before the resurrection power was released. Your darkest season wasn't evidence that God abandoned you. It was evidence that your resurrection was near. Every sleepless night was the enemy trying to wear you down before dawn breaks. Every financial crisis was hell trying to bankrupt you before heaven's wealth transfer. Every health scare was darkness trying to kill you before your divine renewal. But you're still here. After everything they threw at you, the losses, the loneliness, the pain that had no name, you're still breathing, you're still believing, you're still watching this message right now. That's not luck, beloved. That's proof. Proof that what's inside you cannot be killed. Proof that your assignment has divine protection. Proof that the 42-hour reversal window is real and you were meant to enter it. The question burning in heaven right now is this: will you recognize that the warfare was confirmation, not condemnation? Will you see that the attacks proved your value, not your worthlessness? Chosen one, if you're still here, if after everything hell has unleashed against you, you're still standing, comment, "I will not break right now." Let heaven see your endurance. Let the angels record your declaration. Because what's about to happen in the next 42 hours will require every ounce of strength you built in that storm. The darkness increased because the dawn is coming. And you need to understand exactly what happens when heaven reverses time over a life the enemy thought he'd already destroyed. Let me tell you what's really happening to you right now. And I need you to hear this with every fiber of your being. You think aging is about your body breaking down. You think it's about your knees aching, your memory fading, your strength leaving. You've been lied to. The real aging, the kind that's been slowly killing you from the inside out, has nothing to do with the number of candles on your birthday cake. The real aging is spiritual. It's the heaviness that settles on your chest when you wake up. It's the numbness where passion used to burn. It's the fog that clouds your mind when you try to pray. It's the exhaustion that no amount of sleep can cure. It's the feeling that God used to speak clearly, but now his voice sounds like it's coming from another galaxy. That's what's been aging you, beloved. Your spirit has been growing old while your calling has been growing cold. But listen to what I'm about to tell you, and let it sink into the deepest part of your soul. For the next 42 hours, God is reversing the clock on your spirit, not your skin, not your birth certificate, your spirit. The part of you that was created to soar like eagles, the part that was designed to run and not grow weary, the part that was meant to walk and not faint. Isaiah 40:31 says it plainly, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." Renew. That's the word heaven is speaking over your life right now. Not retire, not resign, not fade away quietly into the background. Renew. Do you remember Sarah, 90 years old, and the Bible says she laughed? Genesis 21:6 tells us, Sarah said, "God hath made me to laugh, so that all that hear will laugh with me." That wasn't the bitter laugh of someone who'd given up. That was the sound of a woman whose joy had been restored, whose purpose had been reignited, whose spirit had been reversed back to the days when she believed the impossible. God didn't give her a facelift. He gave her a faith lift. He didn't make her body younger. He made her spirit younger than her circumstances. And when that happens, beloved, when your spirit gets younger, everything else starts to shift. Think about Caleb, 85 years old, and listen to what he declared in Joshua 14:11. "As yet I am as strong this day as I was in the day that Moses sent me. As my strength was then, even so is my strength now, for war, both to go out and to come in." 85. And he's talking about going to war. He's talking about conquering mountains. He's talking about claiming territory that younger men were too afraid to touch. What happened to Caleb? Did he find some ancient secret supplement? Did he discover a hidden fountain of youth? No. His spirit never aged. While everyone else around him was settling into old age, Caleb's spirit was still on fire, still hungry, still believing that his best days weren't behind him but ahead of him. That's what God is doing for you in these 42 hours. He's taking your tired spirit and breathing resurrection life back into it. He's taking the passion that you thought died 20 years ago and striking the match again. He's taking the clarity you used to have and wiping the fog off your spiritual eyes. He's taking the joy that life stole from you and returning it sevenfold. This is about the restoration of everything that made you feel alive. The curiosity that made you wake up excited about the day. The peace that let you sleep through the night without anxiety gnawing at your soul. The purpose that made you feel like your life mattered, like you were here for a reason, like God had written your name in His book before the foundation of the world. You've been carrying memories that weigh more than your body can hold, regrets that loop in your mind like a broken record, disappointments that have calcified into bitterness. God is about to heal those memories, not erase them, heal them, transform them from weapons the enemy uses against you into testimonies that set other people free. Eagles don't retire, beloved. They renew. Psalm 103:5 promises that God satisfieth thy mouth with good things, so that thy youth is renewed like the eagles. The eagle molts. It loses its old feathers, its dull beak, its worn talons. It goes through a painful process of shedding what's dead, so that what's alive can emerge stronger, sharper, more powerful than before. You're in your molting season right now. What feels like falling apart is actually the preparation for breaking forth. What feels like loss is actually making room for restoration. What feels like endings is actually the trembling before new beginnings. Your spirit is about to feel younger than your body. You're going to wake up one morning soon and feel something you haven't felt in years. Hope. Real hope. Not the kind you manufacture to get through the day, but the kind that rises up from the depths of your soul like a spring of living water. You're going to pray and hear God's voice with a clarity that shocks you. You're going to look at your life and see purpose where you only saw past. You're going to feel passion ignite in places that have been numb for decades. This isn't theory, chosen one. This is prophecy. This is what happens when you rely on what I'm about to show you for the next 42 hours. Right now, wherever you are, I need you to whisper these 3 words out loud. Restore me, Lord. Don't just think them. Speak them. You're not asking for something trivial. You're speaking resurrection over your timeline. You're calling your spirit back from the grave of disappointment. You're commanding the years the locusts have eaten to be returned to you with interest. But here's what you need to understand before we go any further, and this is critical, so listen carefully. This restoration doesn't happen automatically. It requires something from you, something specific, something so powerful that when you activate it, heaven has no choice but to respond. What is that something? And why does it only work within a 42-hour window? Now that heaven's clock is ticking, you need to understand something that's going to shake you to your core. This isn't a passive blessing you sit back and receive like some spiritual welfare check. No, beloved. What God is about to do in the next 42 hours requires your active participation, your willingness to be tested, your courage to step into something that will separate you from every distraction that's been aging your soul. You see, the enemy has spent decades installing voices in your mind, voices of regret whispering about roads not taken, voices of fear screaming about time running out, voices of doubt questioning if God even remembers your name. And those voices, chosen one, those voices have been draining your life force drop by drop, year by year, until you woke up one morning and didn't recognize the weary stranger staring back from the mirror. But for 42 hours, everything changes. If you pass 3 sacred tests, the first test, the test of silence, For the next 42 hours, you must silence every voice that steals your peace. I'm not talking about turning off your television or putting your phone on silent. I'm talking about something far more radical. I'm talking about shutting down the internal commentary that has narrated your decline. That voice that says, "You're too old for this." That voice that counts your failures like a prosecuting attorney building a case against your worth. That voice that measures your remaining years and finds them wanting. Psalm 46:10 commands us, "Be still and know that I am God." But here's what most people miss. The Hebrew word for be still is rapha. It doesn't mean sit quietly. It means to let go, to release, to stop striving, to cease the internal warfare that's been exhausting you for decades. Think about Moses at the Red Sea. 2 million terrified Israelites screaming behind him, Pharaoh's army thundering toward them, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. And what does God say? Exodus 14:14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. But the people couldn't be still, could they? They panicked. They complained. They let fear's voice drown out faith's whisper. And how many of you have been doing the exact same thing? Fighting battles God never asked you to fight. Carrying burdens He never assigned to your shoulders. Wrestling with outcomes He's already orchestrated. For 42 hours, that stops. When worry rises about your health, about your finances, about your children who've stopped calling, about the doctor's appointment next week, you speak one sentence, "Lord, carry this." And then you release it. You silence the panic. You refuse to rehearse worst-case scenarios like some mental horror film on repeat. Because here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Every minute you spend in internal chaos, you age, not just spiritually. Science now proves that stress literally shortens your telomeres, the protective caps on your DNA that determine how fast you age. Your worry isn't just stealing your peace, it's stealing your years. The second test. The test of stillness. Don't rush decisions. Don't answer out of fear. How many disasters in your life happened because you moved too fast? How many relationships imploded because you reacted instead of responded? How many financial mistakes were made because panic pushed you into choices wisdom would have rejected? Isaiah 28:16 declares, "The one who believes will not be in haste." But you've been hurrying your whole life, haven't you? Hurrying to prove yourself, hurrying to fix what's broken, hurrying to make things happen because you're terrified that if you don't force it, nothing will change. But forced fruit rots, beloved. Only fruit that ripens in God's timing carries the sweetness of His blessing. For these 42 hours, when someone demands an immediate answer, you pause. When circumstances pressure you to act now, you wait. When your emotions scream for resolution, you breathe and remember that God's delays are not His denials. King David understood this. When Saul was hunting him through caves and wilderness, David had multiple chances to kill his enemy and seize the throne God had already promised him. His men urged him, "This is your moment. Strike now." But David refused. He waited for God's timing. And because he waited, when he finally took the throne, no one could question his legitimacy. Your stillness isn't weakness. Your stillness is warfare against the spirit of rush that's been driving you into premature decisions and preventable heartache. The third test, the test of reliance. Every time worry rises, say, "Lord, carry this." This is the test that will break generational patterns. This is the test your ancestors failed. They carried everything themselves. They white-knuckled their way through life, convinced that if they didn't hold it all together, everything would fall apart. And they went to their graves exhausted, having never learned the secret of reliance. But you're not them. You're the one who breaks the cycle. Matthew 11:28 isn't a suggestion, it's an invitation. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Not try harder, not figure it out yourself, but give it to me. For 42 hours, every burden becomes a transfer, Every anxiety becomes a transaction. You feel the weight, you speak the words, and you release it to the only one who can actually carry it without breaking. Pass these 3 tests, chosen one, and something miraculous happens. The age written on your driver's license will no longer match the youth rising inside your soul. Your body will remember what your spirit never forgot. The weariness will lift, the fog will clear, the fire will reignite. But the question burning in heaven right now is this: will you accept the test, or will you go back to the same patterns that aged you before your time? Type "I accept the test" if you're ready for your covenant moment with destiny. Let me tell you exactly what's about to happen to your body, your mind, and your spirit over the next 42 hours. And I'm not speaking from hope or wishful thinking. I'm speaking from the word of the living God, who said in Isaiah 40:31, "They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles." Renew. That's not a metaphor. That's a promise written in blood and sealed with resurrection power. Within the first 12 hours of relying on what I'm about to reveal to you, something will shift in your sleep. You know how you've been waking up tired for years? How you open your eyes and immediately feel the weight of your age pressing down on your chest like a stone? That's about to change. Some of you will wake up tomorrow morning, and for the first time in 2 decades, you'll take a breath that doesn't feel like work. You'll sit up in bed and notice something's different. Your mind will be clearer. The fog that's been clouding your thoughts since you turned 65, 70, 75, it will start to lift like morning mist burning off under sunlight. You'll think you're imagining it, but you're not. By hour 18, people around you will start noticing. Your daughter will call and say, "Mom, you sound different today." Your grandson will look at you and ask, "Grandpa, why do your eyes look so bright?" They won't be able to name what they're seeing, but they'll feel it. Because when God reverses spiritual aging, it radiates. It leaks out of you like light through a cracked door. Let me take you deeper. In 2 Corinthians 4:16, Paul wrote, "Though our outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day." You've watched your outward man perish, haven't you? You've counted every wrinkle, every grey hair, every pound you can't lose, every step that's harder than it used to be. But God is about to flip the script. For 42 hours, He's focusing on your inward man, the part of you that's eternal, the part that carries His breath, the part that was never meant to grow old. Around hour 24, you're going to experience something that will shock you. Joy. Not happiness joy. There's a difference. Happiness depends on circumstances. Joy defies them. You'll be sitting in your living room, doing nothing special, and suddenly you'll feel it rising in your chest like a spring bubbling up from underground. You might even laugh out loud and not know why. That's the Holy Spirit reminding your soul what it felt like before disappointment became your default setting. By hour 30, the dreams will start. Not nightmares, not the anxious, confused dreams you've been having for years. Clear dreams. Directive dreams. Dreams where God speaks in pictures and symbols the way He did with Joseph, with Daniel, with the prophets of old. Write them down. Don't dismiss them as just a dream. Heaven is downloading instructions while your conscious mind is finally quiet enough to receive them. Here's what most people don't understand about spiritual age reversal. It's not about making you younger, it's about making you remember who you were before the world aged you. Before grief bent your back, before betrayal hardened your heart, before loss taught you to expect disappointment. At hour 36, you'll notice something strange happening in your conversations. Words will come out of your mouth that surprise even you. Wisdom you didn't know you possessed. Peace you haven't felt in years. Someone will ask you a question, and instead of the tired, bitter answer you usually give, you'll hear yourself speaking life, speaking hope, speaking truth that cuts through confusion like a hot knife through butter. That's not you talking anymore, chosen one. That's the renewed you, the you that God always intended before time wore you down. Let me tell you what Moses experienced. At 120 years old, listen to this, Deuteronomy 34:7 says his eye was not dim, nor his natural force abated. 120 years old, and his vision was perfect. His strength was intact. Why? Because he spent 40 years relying on the presence of God so completely that the divine rubbed off on him. His face literally glowed. The man's skin radiated light because he'd been that close to the source of all life. That same presence is available to you right now, not in 40 years, in 42 hours. As you approach hour 42, you're going to feel a lifting. It's hard to describe if you've never experienced it, but those of you who have walked closely with God know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like invisible hands reaching under your shoulders and straightening your spine. The burdens you've been carrying, worry about your health, fear about your finances, grief over your children, anxiety about tomorrow, they won't disappear completely, but their weight will shift. They'll stop crushing you and start refining you. King David knew this. At 70 years old, near the end of his life, he wrote in Psalm 71:18, "Now also, when I am old and grey-headed, O God, forsake me not, until I have showed thy strength unto this generation." David wasn't asking God to make him young again. He was asking God to use his age, his experience, his scars, as a testimony to a generation that desperately needed to see what faithfulness looks like over the long haul. That's what's happening to you in these 42 hours. God is not erasing your age. He's weaponizing it. He's taking every year you've lived, every battle you've survived, every tear you've cried, and he's transforming all of it into spiritual authority that will shake the kingdom of darkness. The next 42 hours will mark the beginning of the most youthful season of your spiritual life. Not because your body will be 25 again, but because your spirit will remember what it felt like to believe without doubt, to hope without fear, to love without walls. Chosen one, if you receive this, if every cell in your body is saying yes to what I'm declaring over your life, say it out loud right now. I'm ready. Heaven responds to readiness. And you're about to discover what happens when God reverses time in the life of someone who refuses to give up. But the question burning in your heart right now is this: what exactly do I have to rely on for these 42 hours? You want to know what really aged you. It wasn't the years. It wasn't the grey hair or the wrinkles or the aching joints that wake you up at 2 a.m. What aged you was invisible. What drained the life from your eyes happened in the realm most people can't see. 3 shadows have been following you since you were young. They've walked behind you through every decade, every disappointment, every door that closed in your face. And these shadows, listen to me, these shadows have been feeding on your vitality, drinking your strength, stealing the very essence of your youth while you thought it was just time passing. The first shadow is fear. Fear that froze your future before you could even step into it. How many dreams died in your throat because fear whispered, "You're not enough"? How many opportunities passed you by because fear screamed, "You'll fail"? How many times did you watch younger people with half your wisdom take risks you were too afraid to take? Fear didn't just stop you from moving forward, it aged you backward. Every time you said no to your destiny out of fear, your spirit grew older, your soul calcified. The fire that once burned in your chest turned to ice. And ice doesn't keep you warm, it preserves you in a tomb of what could have been. Moses knew this shadow intimately. 80 years old, standing before a burning bush. And what did he say to God? "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh?" Exodus 3:11. 80 years of fear had convinced him he was nobody. Fear had stolen 40 years of his life in a desert, tending sheep when he was meant to lead nations. But when Moses finally said yes to God despite his fear, something supernatural happened. For the next 40 years, he moved with the strength of a young man, leading 2 million people through impossible terrain. Fear aged him, but God reversed it. The second shadow is regret. Oh, this one cuts deeper, doesn't it? Regret sits on your chest at night like a stone. Regret whispers the names of people you hurt, chances you missed, words you can never take back. Regret keeps you looking backward when God is trying to move you forward. And every time you rehearse your failures, every time you replay your mistakes, every time you punish yourself for being human, you age another year in your spirit. How many years have you lost to the prison of what you should have done? How much of your strength has been drained by the weight of "I wish I had"? Regret doesn't just make you older, it makes you bitter. It turns wine into vinegar. It transforms warriors into shadows of themselves. David understood this torment. The man after God's own heart became a man haunted by his own heart. Adultery, murder, the death of his infant son. 2 Samuel 12 records his agony. He fasted, he wept, he lay on the ground, refusing comfort. Regret was killing him faster than any enemy's sword. His own psalms became cries from a pit. My bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. Psalm 32:3. But then David discovered something that changed everything. He wrote, "As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions from us." Psalm 103:12. When David finally released his regret to God, his strength returned. He ruled with wisdom. He danced before the Lord. He became the standard by which all future kings would be measured. Regret aged him, but God reversed it. The third shadow is the cruelest, abandonment. This is the shadow that hollowed out your heart, the shadow that made you feel invisible even in crowded rooms. Maybe your children stopped calling. Maybe your spouse left. Maybe the church you served for decades forgot your name. Maybe friends you would have died for walked away when you needed them most. Maybe God himself seemed to go silent when you cried out the loudest. Abandonment doesn't just hurt, it empties you. It creates a void where life used to be. And that void ages you faster than disease, faster than poverty, faster than any physical affliction. Because when you believe you're alone, when you're convinced nobody sees you anymore, your soul begins to die while your body is still breathing. Naomi knew this darkness. The book of Ruth tells us she lost her husband, then both her sons. In one chapter, she went from fullness to emptiness. She even changed her name. "Don't call me Naomi," she said. "Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter." Ruth 1:20. She walked back to Bethlehem, aged by grief, hollowed by loss, convinced that God had abandoned her. But Naomi didn't know what was coming. She didn't know that her daughter-in-law Ruth would become the grandmother of King David. She didn't know that her emptiness was about to become the womb of a royal lineage. She didn't know that the women of Bethlehem would soon say to her, "Praise be to the Lord, who this day has not left you without a guardian redeemer." Ruth 4:14. Abandonment aged her, but God reversed it. Do you see the pattern? Fear aged you, regret aged you, abandonment aged you, but God specializes in reversal. But God rewrites endings. But God takes what the shadows stole and returns it sevenfold. And here's what you need to understand about the next 42 hours. These three shadows cannot follow you where you're about to go. Fear cannot enter the place of divine courage. Regret cannot survive in the presence of divine forgiveness. Abandonment cannot exist where divine companionship dwells. For 42 hours, you're stepping into a dimension where shadows lose their power. Chosen one, I need you to declare it right now. Say it out loud wherever you are. Say it until you feel it in your bones. No more shadows. Because what's coming next will prove that time isn't your master, God is. And when God decides to reverse what time has stolen, even your body has to obey. You know what nobody tells you about getting old? It's not the wrinkles that hurt the most. It's not the gray hair or the slower walk or the pills lined up on your kitchen counter every morning. It's the empty chair at the breakfast table where your husband sat for 43 years. It's walking past your daughter's old bedroom and remembering when she used to call you every Sunday, before life got too busy, before the calls stopped coming. It's waking up and forgetting just for 3 beautiful seconds that your best friend is gone. and then remembering. Again, like a knife that never gets dull. Dear chosen one, let me ask you something that's going to cut straight to your soul. How much sorrow are you carrying right now that nobody can see? How many losses have you buried so deep that you don't even cry about them anymore, because what's the point? How many dreams did you fold up like old letters and put in a drawer you'll never open again? You've lost more than most people will ever carry. You've buried spouses while the world kept spinning like nothing happened. You've watched friends disappear one by one until the phone doesn't ring anymore, and the reunions get smaller and smaller until there's nobody left who remembers your stories. You've felt your own body betray you, knees that don't bend, hands that shake, a heart that's tired of breaking. And somewhere along the way you started believing a lie. The lie that says your sorrow is just sorrow, that your grief is just grief, that your pain is just pain. But what if I told you that every tear you've cried has been collected? What if I told you that Psalm 56:8 is literally true when it says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book." God doesn't waste pain, beloved. He warehouses it. He stores it. He's been saving every single tear like precious seed, waiting for the exact moment when he can plant it and watch something miraculous grow. Listen to me carefully. In the next 42 hours, heaven is initiating what I call the Great Exchange. God himself is about to trade your sorrow for strength. Not erase your sorrow, transform it. Not delete your grief, redeem it. Not pretend your losses never happened, but resurrect meaning from the grave of your pain. This isn't therapy. This isn't positive thinking. This is biblical alchemy. This is what Isaiah 61:3 promised when it said God would give you beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. But here's what most preachers won't tell you about that verse. You can't get beauty until you've first had ashes. You can't receive the oil of joy until you've walked through the valley of mourning. You can't wear the garment of praise until you've known what it feels like when heaviness crushes your chest at 3 a.m. and you wonder if you'll ever feel light again. Your sorrow wasn't pointless. It was soil. Think about what soil really is. It's death. It's decay. It's everything that used to be alive, broken down, darkened, buried. But soil is also the only place where new life can begin. A seed can't grow in sunlight. It can't grow in fresh air. It has to be buried in darkness, surrounded by death, before it can become what it was meant to be. You've been buried, haven't you? You've been in the dark soil of loss for so long you forgot what sunlight feels like. You've been decomposing your old dreams, your old strength, your old certainty that life would work out the way you planned. But chosen one, God has been working in that darkness. While you thought you were dying, he was preparing you for resurrection. While you thought you were finished, he was getting you ready for the greatest season of your life. Because here's the mystery that will shatter everything you thought you knew about your pain. The deeper the sorrow, the stronger the strength that grows from it. The darker the soil, the more explosive the bloom. The more you've lost, the more capacity you have to carry what God is about to give you. 2 Corinthians 1-4 says it plainly, "He comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort others." But do you see what that means? Your sorrow isn't just about you. It's about every person you're going to meet in the next season who's drowning in the same grief you survived. Your tears watered the garden that will feed hungry souls you haven't even met yet. In the next 42 hours, something supernatural is being activated. God is reaching into that soil of sorrow you've been buried in, and he's pulling you up. Not as the person you were before the loss, as someone stronger, someone who knows things, someone who carries authority that only comes from walking through hell and coming out with your faith intact. The exchange is happening right now. Can you feel it? That stirring in your chest. That's not grief anymore. That's strength being born from the womb of your sorrow. But you have to participate in this exchange. You have to release what you've been gripping. You have to open your hands and let God take the sorrow you've been carrying like a badge of honor, like proof of your loyalty to the dead. like evidence that you really love them. Chosen one, whisper this out loud right now. Don't just think it, speak it. Let your own ears hear your voice making this declaration. Lord, I give you my sorrow. Say it again. Lord, I give you my sorrow. One more time, and mean it with everything in you. Lord, I give you my sorrow. Because in exactly 42 hours, you're going to need the strength He's about to give you in return. And what's coming next will prove that your greatest pain was always your greatest preparation. You know what nobody tells you about getting old? It's not the aching joints or the gray hair that breaks you. It's the weight. The invisible weight that settles on your shoulders year after year until one day you realize you've been carrying the coffins of dead dreams, buried hopes, and promises that expired decades ago. You wake up tired. You go to bed exhausted. And somewhere between those two moments, you stop believing that anything could ever feel light again. But what if I told you that right now, in this very moment, there's a wind blowing from the throne room of heaven that's about to lift what's been crushing you for decades? Listen to me, chosen one. God specializes in second winds, not the kind you catch after jogging around the block. I'm talking about supernatural eruptions of strength that make no earthly sense. The kind that takes an 80-year-old shepherd named Moses and turns him into a nation deliverer. The kind that puts a staff in trembling hands and says, "Now go split the sea." Exodus chapter 7, verse 7 tells us, Moses was 80 years old when he stood before Pharaoh. 80. The world would have handed him a rocking chair and a pension, but God handed him a rod and an assignment that would require him to outpace armies, climb mountains, and stand in the gap between heaven and earth for 40 more years. That wasn't human stamina. That was divine wind. You see it again with Elijah in 1 Kings chapter 18. This prophet had just called down fire from heaven, slaughtered 450 false prophets, and should have been collapsing from exhaustion. But verse 46 says, "The hand of the Lord came on Elijah, and tucking his cloak into his belt, he ran ahead of Ahab's chariot all the way to Jezreel." How far is that? 17 miles. 17 miles. And Elijah, this weathered, battle-worn prophet, outran the king's horses. Not because his legs were young, but because something stronger than muscle was moving him. That's the second wind I'm talking about. You've been living on your first wind for too long. That's human strength, human willpower, human determination, grinding against gravity and time. And you're exhausted because you were never meant to operate on that frequency forever. But there's a shift happening in the next 42 hours. God is about to breathe on you the way He breathed into Adam's nostrils in Genesis chapter 2. Not just to give you life, but to give you lift. Think about Caleb. Joshua chapter 14, verse 10 through 11. He's standing there at 85 years old telling Joshua, "I am still as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. I'm just as vigorous to go out to battle now as I was then." 85 years old, and he's not asking for a retirement village. He's demanding a mountain. "Give me this hill country," he says. "Give me the giants. Give me the battle. Give me what would kill a younger man." What gave him that audacity? Second wind. The kind that doesn't come from vitamins or exercise or positive thinking. It comes from relying completely on the breath of the Almighty. Now, I need you to do something. Close your eyes for just a moment. I'm serious. Close them. Because what I'm about to pray over you, some of you are going to feel it physically. There is a wind, a warm, invisible wind entering your living room right now. It's not your imagination. It's not the air conditioner. It's the Ruach, the Hebrew word for God's Spirit, God's breath, God's wind. And it's moving toward you like it moved over the waters in Genesis before the world was formed. Some of you are feeling warmth spreading across your chest. Others are noticing your shoulders dropping, releasing tension you've carried so long you forgot it wasn't supposed to be there. A few of you just took your first deep breath in years without even realizing it. That's not coincidence. That's contact. Sarah knew this wind. Genesis chapter 21. She's 90 years old, holding a baby that her body said was impossible. And she's not crying from pain, she's laughing. Laughing. Because when God breathes life into dead situations, joy comes with it. The burden that aged you, that invisible casket of regret, that cement blanket of disappointment, that iron chain of what-ifs, it's lifting right now. Not tomorrow, not after you pray harder or try more. Right now, you will rise again. Even if you've been sitting in that chair so long the cushion has your shape, you will rise again. Even if you've forgotten what it feels like to wake up with purpose, you will rise again. Even if everyone around you has already written your eulogy, this is your second wind, not a resurrection of your 20s, not a return to what was, but a rising into what's next. The strongest chapter, the wisest season, the most dangerous version of you that hell has ever encountered. Because an elder with God's wind in their lungs is not retiring. They're reigning, they're not fading, they're finally emerging, they're not winding down. They're being wound up for one final, glorious charge that will leave this world speechless. The clock is ticking, chosen one. You have 42 hours to stop relying on what's left of your own strength and start relying on His limitless supply. Chosen one, if you feel this wind, if something just shifted in your atmosphere, comment below right now. I rise. 2 words. Seal this moment. Let heaven record that you're done staying down. Because what's coming in the next section will show you exactly what happens when God's wind doesn't just touch you, it transforms you. You're not just watching this video by accident. Right now, at this exact moment, there's something happening in the heavenly realm that most people will never see, never feel, never understand. But you're different. You've been marked. And for the next 42 hours, heaven has assigned watchers to your life. Let me tell you what's really happening while you sit there wondering if this is real. The Bible tells us in Daniel 4:17 that the decision is announced by messengers. The holy ones declare the verdict. Did you catch that? Messengers, angels. They don't just sing pretty songs around God's throne. They're scribes, record keepers. And right now, they're writing a report with your name at the top. What are they writing? They're documenting your response to this moment. They're recording whether you leaned in or scrolled away. They're noting whether you dismissed this as just another video or recognized it as a divine appointment. Because chosen one, God doesn't waste supernatural moments on people He's not about to elevate. Think about this. Why have the last few months felt so heavy? Why has it seemed like everything that could go wrong did go wrong? Why have you felt stuck in a season that should have ended years ago? It's because timelines were being realigned. Battles were shifting positions. What you called delay, heaven called preparation. But something broke loose 42 hours ago. I'm talking about a shift so precise, so specific, that if you miss this window, you'll spend the next year wondering what could have been. Moses had his burning bush moment. Paul had his road to Damascus. Gideon had his fleece. And you? You have the next 42 hours. God is the artist of time. He doesn't just move through time, He paints over it. Isaiah 43:18-19 says, "Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Do you hear what the Spirit is saying?" God is picking up His brush right now, and He's about to paint a new chapter over the old season that's been suffocating you. But here's what most people don't understand about divine visitation. God doesn't show up to impress you. He shows up to test you. He watches how you respond when heaven whispers instead of shouts. He observes whether you'll trust the mystery or demand the proof first. For 42 hours, you are being observed for elevation. Let me make this plain. Every ache in your body right now, every pain that reminds you that you're not 30 anymore, God sees it. Every morning you wake up tired before the day even starts, He knows. Every time you've looked at younger people and thought, I used to have that energy, He's been counting those moments. Not to mock you, to prepare you for reversal. You think your best years are behind you? That's exactly what the enemy wants you to believe. Because if he can convince you that your age is a countdown to irrelevance, you'll never realize that in God's kingdom, your years are not a countdown, they're a build-up. Caleb was 85 when he said in Joshua 14:12, "Now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day." 85. Most people are thinking about nursing homes. Caleb was claiming mountains. Why? Because he understood something you're about to understand. Age in the natural doesn't mean decay in the spiritual. But you have to choose it. You have to rely on it. Something will happen within the next 42 hours. I can't tell you exactly what because God customizes his visitations, but I can tell you this: watch. Wait. Listen. You'll know it when it happens. A sudden surge of energy when you should be exhausted. A clarity of mind that's been foggy for months. A release from pain that doctors said was permanent. A peace that drowns out the anxiety you've carried like a second skin. Heaven is recalibrating your internal clock. Not your biological age, that's just numbers on paper. I'm talking about your spiritual vitality. The fire that's been dimming is about to roar back to life. The strength that's been draining is about to be replenished from a source that never runs dry. But here's the urgency you need to grasp. This 42-hour window isn't going to repeat itself. God moves in appointed times. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. This is your time. This is your season." And if you treat it like every other day, you'll wake up on day 3 wondering why nothing changed. The angels are watching. They're writing. They're waiting to see if you'll step into this moment or step around it. So, let me ask you directly. Are you going to keep living like time is your enemy? Or are you ready to discover that for chosen ones, time bends, reverses, and renews when the Creator decides it's your turn for restoration? Chosen one, if you're still here, if something in your spirit is confirming every word I'm speaking, type "I'm being prepared" in the comments right now. Heaven sees your endurance. The watchers see you leaning in. And what happens next will prove that God hasn't forgotten your name. He's been saving your breakthrough for such a time as this. Because in the next section, I'm going to show you exactly what you need to rely on for these 42 hours. And when you see it, everything you thought you knew about aging, about time, about your body's limitations, is about to shatter like glass hitting concrete. You know what terrifies you more than death itself? It's forgetting. It's reaching for a word that used to come so easily and finding nothing but fog. It's walking into a room and standing there like a stranger in your own home, wondering what you came for. It's looking at your grandchild's face and taking 3 seconds too long to remember their name. They call it senior moments. They laugh it off. But you're not laughing, are you? Because late at night, when the house is quiet and you're alone with your thoughts, a cold fear creeps in. What if my mind is leaving me? What if the sharpness I once had is gone forever? What if I'm becoming a burden instead of a blessing? Listen to me, chosen one. That fear has a name, and it's not dementia, it's not Alzheimer's, it's called spiritual amnesia. And for the next 42 hours, God is offering you something the medical world cannot provide: a complete renewal of your mind. Romans 12:2 says it plainly, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Not your body first, your mind. Because everything you've lost, your clarity, your creativity, your ability to dream again, it didn't disappear because you got old. It disappeared because the enemy has been slowly, methodically dimming the lights in the cathedral of your consciousness. Picture this with me. Your mind is a vast cathedral, magnificent, sacred, built by the hands of God Himself before you took your first breath. In your younger years, that cathedral was ablaze with light, every corner illuminated, every thought clear, every memory accessible. But over the decades, life happened. Trauma snuffed out candles, disappointment extinguished flames, betrayal blew out entire chandeliers, and now you're walking through your own mind in semi-darkness, stumbling over memories you can't quite reach, searching for words that hide in shadows. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Those candles aren't gone. They're just waiting to be relit. For 42 hours, the Holy Spirit is moving through the cathedral of your mind with divine fire, relighting every candle that grief extinguished, every lamp that pain blew out, every torch that time tried to steal. And when he's finished, you won't just remember better. You'll think clearer than you have in 20 years. You'll dream bigger than you did at 40. You'll create with the imagination of your youth combined with the wisdom of your years. This is not natural. This is supernatural. You want proof? Look at Moses. At 120 years old, Deuteronomy 34:7 says his eyes were not weak, nor his strength gone. 120 years old, and his mind was sharp as a blade. Why? Because he had been standing in the presence of God for 40 years, and that presence renewed him from the inside out. Look at Caleb, 85 years old, standing before Joshua, declaring in Joshua 14:11, "I am still as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. I'm just as vigorous to go out to battle now as I was then." That's not genetics, beloved. That's divine renewal. His mind believed it, so his body followed. But here's where it cuts deep. How many of you have stopped believing you can be sharp again? How many of you have accepted mental fog as your new normal? How many of you have surrendered to the lie that your best thinking is behind you? That surrender ends today, right now, in this very moment, because God is about to awaken parts of your mind you thought were gone forever. Sections of memory you assumed were permanently closed. Creative chambers you believed had been shut down. Problem-solving abilities you figured retired when you did. Isaiah 40:31 promises, "They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." But look closely at the verse right before it, verse 29. "He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak." The word for power in Hebrew is coach. It means mental vigor, not just physical strength. God is promising to restore your mental horsepower. This is why the next 42 hours are critical. During this window, you must rely completely on this one thing: the deliberate, intentional, relentless renewal of your mind through God's Word. Not reading it passively, not skimming it like news, but speaking it over your consciousness, declaring it over your memory, prophesying it over your clarity, until the cathedral of your mind blazes with holy fire again. Every time you feel the fog rolling in, you speak, "I have the mind of Christ." 1 Corinthians 2:16. Every time you forget a name, you declare, "The Holy Spirit brings all things to my remembrance." John 14:26. Every time mental fatigue hits, you prophesy, "He restores my soul." Psalm 23:3. You're not just hoping for change, you're commanding it. You're not waiting for renewal, you're activating it. But I need you to understand something that will shake you to your core. The enemy has been feeding you a narrative for years. You're slowing down. It's normal. Accept it. And every time you agreed with that lie, you gave him permission to dim another light in your cathedral. No more. For the next 42 hours, you are going to wage war for your mind. Not with medicine, not with supplements, with the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. And when those 42 hours are complete, you will not be the same person mentally that you are right now. Chosen one, I need you to say this out loud. Right where you are, say it with authority. Renew my mind. Say it again, louder this time. Renew my mind. Because the fire has already been lit. The question is whether you'll tend it or let it die. And what happens when your mind is renewed? When the cathedral blazes with light again, that's when the real miracle begins, because a renewed mind doesn't just think differently, it speaks differently. And what you're about to speak in the next 42 hours will determine whether your body follows your mind into resurrection. Chosen one, before you close this video and step back into your day, I need you to carry 3 eternal truths with you like precious stones in your pocket. First, the next 42 hours are not about hoping for change, they're about activating renewal that's already been released over your life. Your mind, your strength, your spirit, they're not declining. They're being repositioned for your finest chapter. Second, age is not your enemy. It never was. Your enemy has been the lie that your best days are behind you. But God doesn't measure your value by your birthday. He measures it by your availability. And you, sitting here right now, are more available than ever. Third, you were never meant to carry this alone. Every struggle with memory, every battle with fatigue, every moment you've felt invisible, God has been there, recording, preparing, positioning you for this very moment, when renewal breaks through like dawn after the longest night. But here's what moves my heart most. You are not walking this path alone. Right now, across this nation, there are thousands just like you, seniors who refuse to fade quietly, warriors who've been refined by fire, chosen ones who know their story isn't over. We are here. We see you. We believe with you. And we will pray for you. So let me ask you this. If God is truly offering you 42 hours of supernatural renewal, what will you do with the clarity, the strength, the fire that's about to return? Because, beloved, this isn't just about feeling better. This is about becoming the answer to someone else's prayer. Now, before you go, let me pray over you. Close your eyes if you're able. Let these words wash over your weary soul. Heavenly Father, I place my hand on the shoulder of every precious person hearing these words right now. You know their names, you know their struggles, you know the weight they carry that no one else sees. Lord, for the next 42 hours, I ask that you would move with power through their minds, their bodies, their spirits, renew their strength like the eagle, restore their clarity like the morning sun burns away fog. Relight every candle in the cathedral of their consciousness. Father, speak to them in dreams, remind them in quiet moments, flood them with peace that surpasses understanding. Let them feel your presence so tangibly that doubt has nowhere to land. And God, use this renewal not just for them, but through them to bless their families, to impact their communities, to leave a legacy that echoes into eternity. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share what God spoke to your heart today. Tell us what you're believing Him for during these 42 hours. Ask for prayer. This community will surround you. And if this message stirred something in your spirit, share it with someone who needs to know their renewal is coming. Someone who's been believing the lie that it's too late. Remind them they're not alone. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Your faithfulness to watch until the very end tells me everything I need to know about your heart. You're hungry for more, and God is about to satisfy that hunger. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because your story isn't over, and neither is this message. Your 42 hours start now, chosen one. Go with God, walk in renewal, and remember the best is yet to come.